Level 1. The map. You are 24 years old. You are about to lose more money than you will earn in your entire working life. And you will lose it without ever making a single bad decision. Here is how. There is a man your exact age standing on the other side of the world right now. Call him Marco. Same skills as you. Same work ethic. Same intelligence. Same ambition. Same willingness to get up early and stay late. You two are, in every way that a person can be measured, identical. And over the next 40 years, one of you will earn many times what the other earns. Not because of talent, not because of effort, because of a line on a map that neither of you drew. This is the fact that almost nobody says out loud. The single biggest factor in what you will earn in your life is not how hard you work. It is where you happen to be standing while you work. The same skill, the same job, the same 40 hours. Priced completely differently depending on which side of a border you do it on. A nurse is a nurse. A coder is a coder. But the number attached to that work can swing by 5 times, 10 times, more, based on nothing but geography. Think about how insane that actually is. A nurse who saves lives in one country can earn less in a year than a nurse doing identical work earns in 3 months somewhere else. Same training, same hands, same patience, with the same fear in their eyes. The only variable that changed was the ground the hospital was standing on, and that variable is worth more than a decade of anyone's effort. You did not choose your country. You were born into it, the way you were born into your family. And by the time you were old enough to think about it, it already felt like simply the way the world is. This is the first thing nobody tells you about staying put. The first thing is that you inherited a map, and the map came with a price list, and you never got to see it. You were handed a country the way you were handed a language, without ever being asked. And that inheritance quietly set the price of your labor for the rest of your life before you ever worked a single day. Nobody explains this to you at 24. And so, at 24, you do the most natural thing in the world. You stay. Marco does not. Watch what happens to the two of you. The verb at level 1 is inherit. You inherit a map you never chose. Inheriting at this level means being handed a country, and with it a price tag on your work, decided entirely by an accident of birth, and never once being told that the number on that tag is the single biggest factor in what your whole life will earn. Level 2. The ceiling. You are 28. You are good at your job. Very good. And you have just discovered something that will define the next 30 years of your life. There is a lid above you, and it is not made of your ability. You do everything right. You work harder than the people around you. You get better every year. You take on more than you are paid for. And you rise, genuinely, to the top of what is available. But at some point you look up and realize the ceiling is not personal. It is national. There is a maximum that your job pays here, a maximum that any job pays here, and it does not care how good you are. You could be the best in the country at what you do and still hit a number that a merely average person earns somewhere else. And you can see it on the faces above you. The people at the top of your field here, the ones who won every prize and made every right move, are living lives that look, from a distance, like a comfortable version of yours. That is the ceiling, made visible. There is nothing above it, no matter how far you climb. Meanwhile, Marco left at 24. Same skills, remember. He is not better than you. He is not working harder. He is simply standing somewhere the same work is priced higher. And so his ordinary effort earns what your exceptional effort cannot. And notice how this quietly poisons the way you see yourself. You start wondering if you are simply not good enough, not sharp enough, not driven enough, because you are working like a machine and the number will not move. It is not you. It was never you. You are running into a wall that was built long before you got here. And mistaking it for a personal failing is the cruelest thing this system does to good people. This is the second thing nobody tells you about staying put. The second thing is that the ceiling above you is a national ceiling, and effort cannot break through it. This is the cruelest arithmetic in the whole story. You can be the hardest working person in your entire country and still earn less than someone mediocre in a richer one. Because your salary is not really a measure of your ability. It is a measure of your local market. And your local market was set long before you arrived. And this is where it starts to hurt. Because you are doing everything right, and it is not working. But at 28, the gap between you and Marco is still small enough to ignore. It will not stay small. Here is what happens when the gap starts to grow. The verb at level 2 is cap. You are capped, by a lid that has nothing to do with you. Being capped at this level means learning that your ceiling is national rather than personal, that no amount of effort breaks through it, and that being excellent where the pay is low still loses to being average where the pay is high. Level 3. The gap. You are 33. You and Marco started identical. Now the numbers are not even close, and the reason will make you angry. Look at the two of you honestly. You have both worked 9 years. You have both gotten better. You have both been promoted. But he earns a multiple of what you earn, and the multiple is growing every year. And here is the part that stings, the part nobody warns you about. It is not just that he makes more. It is that his costs did not rise at the same rate his pay did, which means the money he keeps, the gap between what comes in and what goes out, is not just bigger than yours. It is a different universe from yours. You save what you can. It is a small amount. Because after your rent and food and life, there is almost nothing left. He saves an amount every single month that is larger than your entire annual salary. Same person, same effort, different map. And you can hear it in an ordinary conversation. You talk to Marco about buying a coffee, and it costs you both roughly the same fraction of an hour of work. Then you talk about buying a house, or a year of your child's education, or a single quiet year off, and suddenly you are not speaking the same language at all. The small things feel similar. The life-size things are worlds apart. This is the third thing nobody tells you about staying put. The third thing is that the gap between you and the person who left is not about income. It is about what is left over, and that is where the difference explodes. Two people can both work hard and both live sensibly, and one ends up with nothing to invest while the other ends up with a fortune to invest, purely because of the relationship between local pay and local costs. You are not losing because you spend badly. You are losing because there is nothing left to keep. And that is the moment the story stops being about salaries. Because money that gets kept does not just sit there. It starts to multiply. And that is where a gap turns into a canyon. The verb at level 3 is diverge. You diverge from the person who left faster every year. Diverging at this level means watching two identical lives split apart, not because one works harder, but because one has money left over at the end of the month and the other has none, and only leftover money can ever become wealth. Level 4. The compound. You are 40. And now the difference between you and Marco has stopped being a difference in income. It has become a difference in kind. Understand what has happened. For 16 years, he has been putting money into things that make money, and those things have been quietly making more, and that more has been making more still. His money has been working a second job the entire time, and it never slept, and it compounded, year after year, on a base that started large and grew larger. Meanwhile, you have been running just as hard, on money that had nothing left over to work with. So here's where you both are. He is not earning 3 times what you earn anymore. He is holding wealth that will never be catchable, because it is now growing by itself, faster than you can save. The tragedy is exact. You did not lose the race because you were slower. You lost it because he had a machine and you had only your hands, and no pair of hands has ever outrun a machine. Picture the two timelines side by side. In yours, every year is the same shape. Work, earn, spend, repeat, and the line stays flat because there is nothing left over to lift it. In his, every year the line curves a little higher because last year's money is helping this year's money, and the curve is starting to go nearly vertical. You are both running. Only one of you is running uphill on a track that moves with you. This is the fourth thing nobody tells you about staying put. The fourth thing is that the cost of staying does not add up, it multiplies, because the money you never had to invest was money that would have been growing this whole time. This is the true price, and it is invisible because it is not what you lost. It is what never got the chance to grow. Every year you stood in a low-priced market was a year your money did not spend building more money, and that lost compounding is the real bill, and it is enormous. But by 40, something else has entered the story, and it changes everything. Because by now, leaving is no longer simple. Watch what happens when the roots go deep. The verb at level 4 is compound. His money compounds, and yours never had the chance. Compounding at this level means discovering that the cost of geography multiplies rather than adds. That the real loss was never the smaller paycheck, but the decades your money never got to spend growing itself. Level 5. The anchor. You are 45. And here is where this stops being a simple story about money. Because now, even knowing everything you know, you probably cannot leave. Look at what you built. Your parents are here, and they are getting older, and they need you. Your children are in school here, with their friends, in the only language they speak fluently. Your partner's whole family is here. Your entire life, every relationship that matters, every place that feels like yours, is inside these borders. Leaving would not just mean a new job. It would mean tearing all of it up and asking the people you love most to pay for a decision they did not make. And this is the part that people who talk about this subject almost always miss. The anchor is not weakness. It is love. It is the accumulated weight of a life actually lived, of a mother who needs you nearby and a daughter who would lose every friend she has. Those are not excuses. They are the actual things a life is made of. And it is entirely rational to refuse to trade them for money. Marco knows this too, from the other side. He has money you cannot imagine. He also missed his father's last years. His children speak his mother's language poorly, with an accent, like tourists. He got the phone call about a funeral and could not get there in time. He paid for his fortune with something real, and he knows exactly what it was. So do not let anyone tell you the anchor is just fear. Sometimes it is fear, and it is worth being honest with yourself about that. But mostly it is arithmetic of a different kind. What is a Sunday with your mother worth? What is your daughter keeping her best friend worth? Nobody can price those for you. And anybody who tells you they are worth less than a bigger salary has simply never had to choose. This is the fifth thing nobody tells you about staying put. The fifth thing is that the door does not stay open forever, and it closes slowly, one relationship at a time. At 24, leaving costs you almost nothing. At 45, it costs you everything you have built, which is precisely why so few people do it late. The window when it is cheap to go is exactly the window when you are too young to understand what it is worth, and by the time you understand, the price has quietly become unpayable. And so you stay, and the years keep passing, and eventually you reach the point where you can finally see the whole bill. It is bigger than you think. The verb at level 5 is weigh. You are weighed down by everything worth having. Weighing at this level means discovering that the roots holding you in place are made of the people you love, that refusing to tear them up is a rational and human choice, and that the door out was cheapest at the exact age you were least able to see it. Level 6. The reckoning. You are 55. And now, finally, you can count what staying actually cost, and the number is hard to look at. Add it up honestly. Over 30 years, the difference in pay, the difference in what you could keep, and most of all, the difference in what that kept money would have grown into by now. It is not a small gap. For many people, it is the difference between a comfortable retirement and working until your body gives out, between leaving your children something and leaving them nothing, between choice and no choice, at the exact age when choice matters most. And here is the thing that makes it so hard to sit with. You cannot point to a single mistake. There was no bad decision, no gambling, no laziness, no stupidity. You simply stayed where you were born, which is the most natural thing a human being can do. And the world quietly charged you for it, every year, for 30 years, and never once sent you a bill you could read. And there is a ghost that visits people at this age. And this is the one thing you should not let it do to you. It is the version of your life where you left at 24, and it is always richer, always easier, always smiling. That ghost is a liar. It has all of Marco's money and none of Marco's losses, and it does not exist. No one ever got that life. The real choice was never between your life and a perfect one. This is the sixth thing nobody tells you about staying put. The sixth thing is that staying is not free. It just never looks like a cost, because you never see the life you did not live. This is the whole trick of it. A loss you can see makes you angry. A loss you never see does not exist to you at all. You paid an enormous price for staying, and you never felt a single payment leave your hand. Because the money never arrived in the first place, and you cannot miss what you were never handed. But before this turns into a story about regret, stop. Because there is one more level. And it changes the whole meaning of everything you just heard. The verb at level 6 is count. You count a cost you never saw yourself paying. Counting at this level means finally adding up 30 years of an invisible price and understanding that the cruelest costs are the ones that never look like costs. Because you cannot grieve a life you never got to see. Level 7. The choice. You are 60. And here, at the end, is the thing this whole story was actually about, and it is not what you think. The point was never that leaving is right and staying is wrong. Look at Marco again, honestly. He has the money. He also has a house in a country he still calls foreign after 36 years. His children are strangers to his own culture. He was not there for the deaths, the weddings, the ordinary Tuesdays that make people family. He is wealthy and he is untethered, and on some nights he would trade a great deal of it to have been in the room when it mattered. You have the opposite. Less money, painfully less. But you were there. Every Sunday. Every funeral, every birth, every crisis. Your children know exactly who they are and where they come from. You build a life inside a place that knows your name, and that is not nothing. That is not a consolation prize. That is one of the few things money genuinely cannot buy. So the two of you did not make a right choice and a wrong choice. You made a trade, both of you. He traded belonging for wealth. You traded wealth for belonging. Both are real. Both cost something enormous. This is the seventh thing nobody tells you about staying put, and it is the one that matters. The seventh thing is that staying put is not the mistake. Staying put without ever knowing it was a choice is the mistake. Almost nobody makes this trade consciously. They simply never leave, because it never occurs to them that leaving is a thing a person like them could do. And they pay the price for 40 years while believing they never made a decision at all. That is the real tragedy in this story. Not the money, the unconsciousness. Because a person who looks clearly at the numbers, understands exactly what staying will cost them, and stays anyway, for their mother, for their children, for the place that made them, has not lost anything. They have bought something, on purpose, at a price they agreed to. And a person who leaves knowing exactly what they are giving up has done the same. Both are free. The only person who is not free is the one who never knew there was a price list at all. And picture the two of you at 80, if you want the honest ending. He is wealthy, in a beautiful house, surrounded by people who love him in a language he learned late. You are not wealthy, in the town that raised you, surrounded by people who have known your face since you were a boy. Neither of you got everything. Both of you got something enormous. The only question that ever mattered was whether you knew what you were buying. The verb at level 7 is choose. You choose, at last, with your eyes open. Choosing at this level means understanding that neither staying nor leaving was ever the mistake, that both are real trades with real costs, and that the only true loss is a life priced by a map you never once looked at. So let's pull this together. At level 1, you inherit a map you never chose, and it silently prices your work. At level 2, you are capped by a national ceiling that effort cannot break. At level 3, you diverge from the person who left, because you have nothing left over to keep. At level 4, his money compounds for decades, and yours never got the chance. At level 5, you are weighed down by roots made of the people you love. At level 6, you count a cost you never once saw yourself paying. At level 7, you choose, and discover that the choice itself was always the point. Here is the thing nobody on YouTube will tell you about where you live. Your income is set more by where you stand than by how hard you work. That is not motivational, and it is not comfortable, and it is true. The same skills, the same hours. The same person, priced completely differently depending on the border you happen to be inside. Most people spend their lives trying to fix their income by working harder, when the biggest single lever on that number is a thing they have never even considered touching. But hear the rest of this clearly, because the internet is full of people who use this fact to sneer at everyone who stayed. That is nonsense. Leaving costs real things, permanent things. Your parents get old without you. Your children grow up half foreign. You miss the funerals. The people who left and got rich did not win for free, they paid, and many of them are still paying, quietly, on nights when their child speaks their language like a stranger. So what do you actually do with this? First, look at the price list. Just look. Find out honestly what your skills are worth in 3 other places, not to torture yourself, but so that for the first time in your life you are seeing the actual market for your work instead of assuming your local one is the world. That single act of looking makes you free, whatever you decide. Second, understand that the price of leaving rises every single year you wait. At 25 it is cheap. At 45 it is nearly unpayable. If you are young and unrooted and you have ever wondered, this is the window, and it is closing slowly, whether you use it or not. And third, if you look at all of it and decide to stay, then stay proudly and stop calling it fate. Say it out loud. I know what this costs me, and I am paying it on purpose, for my mother, for my kids, for the place that made me. That is not settling. That is one of the most expensive things anyone ever buys, and you are buying it deliberately. The tragedy was never staying put. The tragedy is a whole life priced by a map you never once looked at. Somewhere right now, a 24-year-old is standing in the country they were born in, thinking about their career, their salary, how hard they will have to work to get ahead, and never once thinking about the single biggest factor in the whole equation, which is the ground under their feet. And somewhere else, someone exactly like them, with the same brain and the same hands and the same hunger, is boarding a plane. Neither of them knows it yet, but they are about to run the same race on two different tracks, and the track will matter more than the runner ever could. One will earn a fortune and lose his father's last years. The other will keep every Sunday and pay for it for 30 years without ever seeing the bill. The latter has 7 levels: inherit, cap, diverge, compound, weigh, count, choose. And only the last one is actually yours. You cannot pick where you were born, and you cannot change what the world pays for your work in that place. But you can, at least once in your life, look honestly at the price of standing still and then decide, with open eyes, whether it is worth paying. Because staying is not the mistake. Staying without ever knowing you had a choice is. If this video changed how you think about where you live and what it costs you, hit subscribe. We have more videos like this on the channel, each one pulling apart a piece of how money actually works, underneath the story we are usually sold. See you in the next one.